All right, and let's get started. Welcome everyone to the Cave Junction Candidates Virtual Forum. My name is Lindsay B. Jones, and I will be moderating the technical aspects of tonight's event, along with Kenny Hauk and Forrest Roth. This forum grew out of the success of the community-led candidates events in the spring. And tonight's forum is hosted by the Illinois Valley Community Development Organization and the Illinois Valley News. A recording of tonight's event will be available as soon as possible on the community website, www.illinoisvalleyweb.org, and radio rebroadcasts will be hosted by KXCJ LP 1057 FM Cave Junction on Tuesday, October 27th at 6:15 p.m. and Saturday, October 31st at 11:15 a.m. The candidates have reviewed and agreed to the rules for the event, which you can access in the link in the chat box that just came up. Next, I'll go over a few technical suggestions and guidance. For audience participation, I suggest that you use the Zoom's speaker view. So if you are hovering over your main screen, look up at the upper right corner and you'll see a little box that says View. Click that and click on Speaker View. So if you're seeing my face in a big box while I'm presenting, you're in the right spot. But if you're seeing a bunch of tiny boxes like Brady Bunch style, go ahead and hover over it or touch the main screen and select that speaker view. Participants are unable to mute themselves, but if you have questions, you can use the chat box. And you can locate that at the bottom of your main screen in the toolbar. And just type your message in there, hit enter, and that chat will go over to one of the hosts. So I suggest communicating with Forrest Roth for any questions, technical, or questions for the candidates tonight. Keep your questions to the scope of the work for the candidate that you're asking a question for, and indicate which candidates you're asking the question about. So whether it's the mayor candidates or the council candidates. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to the moderator of tonight's event, Dan Mancuso from the Illinois Valley News. Welcome, Dan.
Didn't realize I was muted. Unmuted. Well, as Lindsay said, my name is Dan Mancuso. I'm the co-publisher of the Illinois Valley News and the Upper Rogue Independent. And we are here tonight and we're going to start with, well, let me back up. First, I want to say thank you to all of you that are with us as well. Being part of the political process is vital to a thriving democracy. And being an informed voter is actually more important so that you know that you're voting for an informed candidate. We're going to start with council candidate positions 2 and 4 first. And then near the end of the hour, we're going to start with the mayoral candidates. Tonight we have incumbent Tina Casey Jones, and I don't see her challenger, Mr. Gill. Am I correct in that? We also have, for position 4, we have Jesse Dugas, and his challenger for the seat that's being vacated by Mark Dillinger is Joel Dierkes, and I'm not sure if I see Joel here either. Is that accurate? Okay. So I prepared a list of questions anticipating that all the candidates would be here. So we're going to have a fair amount of downtime because I have 4 times the amount, double the amount of questions for half the amount of people. So what Lindsay is going to draw a name and we're going to start with that person. So if Lindsay, if you'd be kind enough to draw a name from the bag, we'll get started. Tina Casey Jones.
That's me.
So I want to thank you for running. And speaking from experience, it can be a daunting and time-consuming experience running for office. With that in mind, what sacrifices are you willing to make in your personal life in order to serve the people of Cave Junction? And how will you separate your personal life from public service?
Well, being already in the position of council position two, it does take time out of my life, and I'm happy to contribute. I mean, that's what I've always done, is try and contribute. My background, in volunteerism, here, since we've moved here to the Illinois Valley for almost 5 years ago, I've been involved in the Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the board of trustees for them. I'm a member of Rotary International of the Illinois Valley. I'm a host on Valley News and Views on KXCJ Radio 105.7. And I've also, as a council member, I've been the liaison to the Parks and Rec Commission. And I've also been on the steering committee for the beautification and revitalization of the downtown corridor of Cave Junction. So it does take a significant amount of time to serve the people of Cave Junction, in addition to attending the meetings, both the council meetings as well as the budget meetings. And then also being at the city hall to talk to the people that work there, and the gentlemen that run our sewage treatment, water treatment plants, Steve and Eric. It takes time, and it's helpful to have a husband who has been supportive of our entire marriage. He's very much in favor of all the work that I do, and he supports me 100%. Was that my opening statement? Oh, you're muted. I'm the only one that's not muted. Okay. Well, I've got 24 seconds left. What else can I tell you about me? I came from Olympia, Washington.
Well, actually, you know what, Tina, I apologize. I did not give you guys a chance for an opening statement. I went right into the questions.
Right.
So I apologize, Lindsay, for screwing that up. So I guess we want to still start with Lindsay or Tina and have her continue on with her 2-minute opening thing. And I'm horribly, I'm just as nervous as you guys are.
Oh, that's okay. I've been practicing, so I'm not nervous anymore. Well, just the parts that I left out were that I came from Olympia, Washington. I married an active duty serviceman, and we lived all over the world, from Europe to the South Pacific. And it gave me an opportunity, since I was in hotel management for 10 years, and then I was in retail management with Disney stores for 20 years. I worked with a diverse group of people. I learned early on how to reach a consensus and also move the team forward, or the community or the organization forward through common just communicating. And I'm a great communicator, so this fits just well with my lifestyle. And I just wanted to thank the IBCDO and the IB News for hosting this, and I also wanted to thank all of the participants that we've got. I don't know all of you, but I'm pretty sure I'll get to meet all of you before the election.
Great. All right, thank you, Tina. And I apologize. Mr. Dugas, if you'd like to start with your 2 minutes, and then we can jump right to the question.
Perfect. Hello, I'd like to start by thanking the IBCDO and the Illinois Valley News for hosting this forum. This local election may be the most important one in recent history as far as our city goes. Our city is at a crossroads, and getting the right people in office to represent the people of Cave Junction has never been more important. I'm running for city council because I want to help. I want to lead. I will work to help direct Cave Junction forward. I coach a large number of our Valley's youth in multiple sports each and every year. I have 4 kids of my own who have been and continue to be raised here. Our youth need a voice in our city council to help protect their best interest. I will be this voice. I will work hard to help create a culture in our valley that allows our children to feel safe and promote growth mentally and physically by increasing the number of resources currently available to our youth. I will bring in more family-friendly city-sponsored events to help bridge that gap between the generations and get our youth more involved in our city. Our elderly need someone who will look after their best interests as well. Often the elderly are the most frequently forgotten about when it comes to change and improvements. Our elderly deserve a clean, safe, and progressive city with easily accessible stores and businesses that are easy to navigate. Making sure that current and new businesses meet this model is important and can be done by working with the local business owners. As a business owner myself, I look forward to doing this. I am for our youth, our elderly, and the people of Cave Junction. I understand that we have other large issues that need to be dealt with, and I'm ready to attack all challenges as they come forward. I like thinking outside the box. I like being challenged. I like coming up with solutions. Our citizens deserve to have someone who will work to earn their trust and not just assume they have it. I hope by the end of this tonight, you have a clear vision of those who are doing this for the right reasons and those who are trying to mislead you with false facts and promises. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. So I'm going to move right in and try and correct my snafu earlier. And Jesse, Jason, and Joel have not showed up. Is that accurate? Okay. In that case, I'm going to jump right to Jesse. Again, I'm going to thank you for your time. And the question was, what sacrifices are you willing to make in your personal life in order to serve the people of Cave Junction? How will you separate your personal life from your public service?
I already have. So it's one of the first things I did when I decided that I was going to run for city council was I resigned my position as a paid coach at Illinois Valley on the football staff. So that was one that freed up a lot of hours. The other one was I resigned my post on the IB Little League as coach coordinator, among other things, to make sure that I had the time necessary to dig in. I am planning on putting no fewer than 30 hours a week after my normal work hour into this city. And so I have done everything that I need to do to get prepared in my personal life to serve the people of Cave Junction.
All right. Since technically Tina went first, I'm going to ping right back at you again, Jesse.
All right.
And everything's kind of been thrown into a bit of a pickle here for me because I anticipated to have all 4 candidates. My next question was actually supposed to be for Mr. Gill. Mr. Gill states in his voter pamphlet that one of the most important jobs the city has is making sure that our drinking water and sewage treatment plants are functioning properly, are safe, and are secured for the future. The quality and price for these services need to meet the customer demands. Fees have been raised over the years, and we ought to get what we pay for, end quote. So I guess what I'm going to ask you is, what do you think about our water systems, and how do you feel things could be done differently, and if anything?
So this is the giant misconception. The misconception with our city is that our water sewage plant is going untested, unregulated, and that's just simply not true. We have 2 individuals currently who are both certified to operate the water treatment plant that we have. They both work hard and they both do an incredible job doing it. There are other things that come into the equation when it comes to figuring out how much to charge each individual. We're all city residents when it comes to our water. I do believe that our base price is $82, $83. And that's very comparable to all of the other towns, especially when you view the size of our town versus the size of other towns. We are right there with everybody else. And we are making changes. We are doing good things, and we are being very proactive to make sure that our water plan is set up for the future. Continue what's been started is what needs to be done.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Jones, would you care to weigh in on the concern Mr. Gill has for the price and the quality of our water system? You have to unmute yourself.
There's that little pop-up box. Okay, great. Our water system is one of the best in Southern Oregon. We have done so many in-house projects that we could have contracted out, but we didn't. It would have raised the water rates for our citizens by $40 a month. And by doing most of the projects that we've done in-house, we've saved a lot of money. We've also saved, because of our in-house work, over $4 million in interest fees. We've upgraded the wastewater UV system. We have energy efficient equipment. We got an $80,000 rebate for it. We've replaced our wastewater digesters. We've removed and replaced our wastewater pond liners. We've upgraded our security system. Our security system was not protected from hackers. So anyone could have hacked into both our water and sewer systems and our city hall. So this is important that we had this taken care of. And also, I got 7 seconds. Rockydale Well, revitalization. We're going to reduce our water rights, and backup water source can be sold to customers in bulk.
Fantastic. All right. Tina, this one actually, you were, the way I did the questions, I'm coming up on you. And it's oddly enough, you're going to be first. So Tina, you state in your voters pamphlet, and I quote, "You wish to be an active and interested conduit to the community to help create an environment where businesses can thrive, creating jobs for the local residents, create and expand opportunities for recreational activities that will attract and delight both tourists and our local community," unquote. What would you do with another term to address these issues?
Well, first of all, because I am also on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, I work very closely to help the business community there, especially during these times with COVID, where the business revenue is not as high as it used to be. So we're helping to provide grants that will help people keep going. As far as recreational activities, that's my baby. And I've got 2 projects in addition to working on the revitalization of Jubilee Park. But I'm also working on the, hopefully the revitalization of the old stage park to turn that into a horseback riding trail, bikes, jogging, whatever. Also river access is right there. And then the other one is to put in a dog park for both the residents and the visitors to use in partnership with our National Park Service. They're very interested in this. So they want to turn their location into more of a rest stop with the dog park attached.
Great. Mr. Dugas,
Yes,
what do you feel can be done to create a city where businesses can flourish?
Being a small business owner here myself, I know that it's difficult. Things are very difficult being a small business owner here. Promotion, revitalization, and making sure that everything is in tip-top shape and is clean and customer friendly is where we need to start. As simple as a gallon of paint on a storefront, making, like I had said in my opening, making sure that storefronts are easily accessed by our elderly. That's key. We are a gateway between Grants Pass and the coast. When tourism is thriving here, Taylor's is always full, and besides Taylor's, you don't see a whole bunch. Our shops need better signage, and I know that that's not a city problem. It doesn't mean that the city can't step in and help and guide. More job fairs, more work fairs. These are all things that can be done to help the small businesses in our town.
Okay. This question was, next question was for Mr. Dierkes. You state in your voters pamphlet that, and I quote, "I am not going to stand by and let open drug use continue on our streets, ... I am not going to stand by and let the homeless suffer on our streets. This is a very complicated issue. What do you think you can do to accomplish as city councilor to rectify this issue?" Since Mr. Dierkes isn't here, I'm going to ask you, Mr. Dugas, what do you feel can be done to address the drug and homeless issues?
If elected, one of the first things I want to do is become a liaison to the Josephine County Commissioners. I feel that the homeless and the drug problem that we locally have here, they can be tied together, but it doesn't mean that every person that's on the street is a drug user. We need to work with our county commissioners to get the help that's required to create an atmosphere that benefits rehabilitation, both for the homeless and for people that need recovery when it comes to being addicts. A drug rehab center in Josephine County is very much needed, not just for our city, but every city here. And I think it's important, and someone has to make that step, and someone has to be willing to step out on that ledge and communicate with our county commissioners to get that ball rolling. And I would love to be that person.
Okay, great. Ms. Jones, would you like to tackle the ever elusive solution to drug and homelessness?
Actually, yes, I would. We're fortunate in Cave Junction to have an organization, the Cave Junction Homeless Alliance with Jimmy Evans. And they're out there on the streets every single night, and they are trying to help people that need shelter, sleeping bags, food. We also have our park hosts, where currently some of our homeless tend to use that as a hotel, I guess you could call it. And they know these people, and they also are very rigid about drugs not being used in the park. So they've made a great impact on that. I know we just recently had a symposium where UCAN and Options and other helping organizations were here in the Valley to try and help people get a hand up, not a handout. And for those people that want help, it was there for them. And I think we need to continue these efforts. And as Jesse said, we've got to partner with the commissioners to bring something to our Valley.
Okay. Mr. Dugas, this one actually was for you. In the voters pamphlet, you talk about how the city is facing a number of problems that need to be resolved. While you didn't mention anything specific, I'm going to mention one for you. The housing inventory. Do you feel the city is hampering new housing? And if so, what would you do? What would you like to see done differently?
Absolutely not. I do not think that the city is dampering building operations at all. I think that Pomeroy has exploded. Personally, I do website design work for 2 local realtor companies. Both of them are fighting with inventory issues as we speak because they're selling. There is constant building going on. I live in one of the newer subdivisions here in the Hanby subdivision. There is development here. You just have to be willing to follow the rules and do things the way they're supposed to be done to do it. Doesn't mean that the city is handcuffing you or keeping you from doing something just because you don't want to do the right thing and spend the money and do it the right way. Get your permits, follow the rules, and build. It's not a hard philosophy. I grew up in the construction trade. My dad and I built over 2,000 homes together until I decided that business wasn't for me anymore. My body couldn't handle it. This is something very, very near and dear to my heart, and it's important, and the city is not stopping it.
Okay. Ms. Jones, what are your, what do you feel can be done to address the housing and specifically how the city plays a part in that?
Well, the cities work hand in hand with Pomeroy River Valley, and they have had no problem whatsoever in getting the permitting they need to build new houses. In fact, it's gone so well that now they're expanding out into Brookings and also into the Medford area. With them, it's almost, I don't want to call it a rubber stamp, but it's kind of like that because they know how to do it so well. They just come in, permits are done, boom, they're out of there. Like Jesse said, if you follow the rules, the city has tried very hard to mirror the ordinances of small towns like Cave Junction, similar to Talent and Ashland. Our city staff reach out to the other small cities to see how they're doing things. And so they mirror what they're doing. And if you follow the rules and take the steps that have been outlined for you by the city, then you don't have any problem getting something built.
Okay. We are about 20 minutes ahead of schedule. I had one last question that I was going to allow Mr. Dugas and Mr. Dierkes to ask each other a question, as well as Ms. Jones and Mr. Gill to ask their opponent a question. Since I only have half of the candidates here, I'm going to throw something out there. I'm going to have Tina ask Jesse a question and have Jesse ask Tina a question. Okay. So I think it's Tina's turn. And so time to put Jesse on the hot seat.
Let's go.
Okay, Jesse, what do you think will be your biggest challenge if you become a city councilor for Cave Junction?
Oh, you would hit me with that one. So for me, I think that I know my strengths and my weaknesses pretty well. And my strengths are dedication. I don't ever give up. I will fight tooth and nail for everything that I believe in. My weakness will be making sure that I can prioritize every issue within the city and work towards a resolution instead of taking on every challenge at a time. For me, I've always been that person that just wants to dive in and go at it. And with the things that I would like to do, example would be the liaison for the county commissioners, if I'm allowed to do that. Those things are going to have to be set up, and coming in and getting my feet wet. You know, I've always been a both feet same time jumping kind of guy, and I've never done this before. I'm not a politician. I'm a business owner. I'm a dad, and so that's going to be my challenge: is coming in and making sure that I don't overwhelm myself.
Great.
Okay, Mr. Dugas, I would think as a baseball fan, you could probably put a little more heat on your question to Miss Jones than that softball she just tossed you.
Oh, come on now. I had to come up with an answer. Sure. And we're going to shoot baseball. So what are your thoughts on improving Jubilee Park and getting a second and possibly a third baseball field there? And the city was involved in the first renovation of Jubilee Park currently, but I know as running the City League softball and then being heavily involved with the 14U program, as well as Little League, that Little League and Roger Grant and other stuff really had to carry a bunch of that load. I feel the city needs to do more for Jubilee Park. How do you plan on doing that as a council member?
Okay, well, that's one of my babies. I'm on the Parks and Rec Commission liaison. We have already purchased the property for a second baseball field. The survey is being ordered and the fencing is going up. We have the fencing. It's not going to cost anything. We do have we have to purchase the poles and the cement, but that money is available through the grants that we've received. A third baseball field is something that, two would allow us to do tournaments. So a third baseball field, I'm not sure if there's land available adjacent to the park. I believe there is. I don't want to identify it though, because that's confidential at this point, but it's looking very good. It's definitely, sorry, I have a cat down here bugging me. We're definitely putting in the second ball field, and we're also looking at a third area that could maybe a parking lot for expanded parking. Oops, I'm done. Sorry.
Okay. Miss Jones, Lindsay Jones.
Sir.
We're, like I said, I am roughly about 15 minutes ahead of schedule right now. How do you see this progressing?
I say we can go ahead and go with the candidates' closing statements. And then if they would like to stick around, there might be some questions from the audience we can wrap it up with a little bit later after the mayoral candidates go.
Okay. And then in that case, let's do that. I believe that Tina went first. Am I correct in that? So we're going to let Jesse, Mr. Dugas, go with his closing comments first.
So for me, it's simple. I ask everybody, do the research on all of the candidates. If you don't feel like I'm the right fit, have a discussion with me. I feel like I'm the right fit. When you look back, and I'm not doing a smear campaign by any means, but when you look back at it, and I like Joel a lot, but he hasn't put any information out there to say what he would do with anything besides the little verb in the voters pamphlet that constantly repeats, "This is why I'm running." But he doesn't go into detail with anything that he would do when he's running. There are some things that have come across that state that him and Jason and Christopher Hall are all three together. And Christopher Hall came on a radio broadcast this past Monday and said that their beliefs were in line, and that when asked if there was a tiebreaker question, if it was just the mayor that solved that, he responded, in a normal situation, yes, but not in this situation because he's not alone. And then said that his beliefs lined with Jason and Joel's. putting the three of them in power to set things the way that they feel fit is not what's right or healthy for the city of Cave Junction. You need to have open debate. That's democracy. You need to have the ability to respectfully disagree with someone and vote how you feel is right for the city of Cave Junction. To do that, you have to have people that aren't perfectly aligned and treating like they're the same individual. You need different individuals. That's why there's 5 on the council, 4 chairs and a mayor. It's not one mayor and 2 other people so you can overrun things. So I ask that everybody do your research and vote how you feel is best for the city of Cave Junction. Thank you for coming in and watching tonight. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Jesse. Ms. Jones, I would like for you to take your 2 minutes and explain to us why we should vote for you and not your opponent.
Well, I got involved with the city council back 3 years ago when I started coming to every meeting. I attended budget meetings. I learned how the municipal government operated. I got to know all the people. And so it was a natural progression, you know, writing for the IV News on all city events, and then moving into the council when Lindsay Jones stepped down last January. I was able to fit right in because I knew how things operated, and I've learned a lot more in the time that I've been on the council. It's been very, very enjoyable. The people that I work with are the best. And I think that the role of the city councilor is to be a conduit between the residents of the city and the municipal government of the city. We have a duty to listen to the people and bring those concerns forward, especially now when there's COVID and we're not able to have meetings in person and people can't get up and speak. It's very difficult for them to air their views about things. And I think it's our role to make sure that the communication stays open. I know that there has been talk about stacking the council in order to benefit a local developer through it, allowing a more kinder council towards them. That may be the case, but I think the city and the residents of Cave Junction they realize what's going on, and they know that I have worked for the benefit of the city, and those of us who are on the rest of the council have as well. And I know that whoever fills the seat that Mark Dillinger's leaving will also be an open communicator with the city, and will bring us all up together, everybody together. So there you go.
Okay. I would like to thank you guys, and I would like to take this opportunity. Someone did message in, and I apologize, I just saw it. They wanted to know what the city was planning to do with the empty swimming pool land. And that land actually belongs to the county of Josephine. And they're going to do with it whatever they see fit in the near future. We do have an article coming up in the next edition of the Illinois Valley News, which basically says nothing. They filled the pool in for safety reasons, and that time will tell. So again, I apologize. I guess I have to pay a little closer attention to this chat box, and I do apologize for that. But to be honest with you, you wouldn't have gotten an answer from the city council. So with that in mind, I think we're going to move on to the mayoral candidate introductions. And Lindsay, you want to? So what we're going to do is we're going to do it the same way. Feel free to submit your questions to Forrest, and I will be more diligent in paying attention to that chat box. Tonight we have the incumbent Mayor Meadow Martel and her challenger Christopher Hall. Each candidate is going to get 2 minutes to do an introduction, and we're going to do it randomly. And if Lindsay beat me to the shot, so we're going to go with Meadow Martel first. So Ms. Martel, if you'd like to unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are running again for another term.
Thank you. Well, like everybody else, I'm really grateful to the IVCDO for making this forum possible. And I especially appreciate the viewers who really have taken their time out to become informed and make good choices. It's important to our community process. I was raised in a military family that moved around a lot, including overseas. And from this experience, I really learned how important the value of having roots and community are to me. So when after college, I was on my way to Alaska and I stopped in Oregon to visit a college friend, and I never left. But it took me 45 years to get to Alaska. It's worth it. So I've lived in Oregon now for 51 years. It's my home. I am rooted here strongly. And 28 of those years have been in the Illinois Valley. 10 years ago, I took a job, and that's how I got here. So, and of those, that was 28 years I got here. 10 of those years, I've lived right in the city limits. So I've been involved in terms of watching the city and how we progress and what we do. What's it all about? I bring over 40 years of experience working in nonprofits and government agencies, working at top level positions. I've provided support, technical assistance. I've managed large staff and large organizational budgets. I get that. And writing federal and nonprofit grants. Currently, I am I am self-employed with a contract with the Oregon Primary Care Office at the Oregon Health Authority. Fortunately, I'm going to be retiring in February 2021, and I'm really looking forward to that. And in addition to a busy professional career, I've always been an advocate for the rural community where I live. I have served on nonprofit boards in both Josephine County and the city of Cave Junction, and I've developed partnerships that get things done.
All right.
So I want to make it really clear right now.
Meadow, I'm sorry, but you've exceeded your time by 10 seconds. Mr. Hall, you'd like to take 2 minutes and explain to us why you're running for mayor?
Thank you, Lindsay, and the IVCDO for setting up the CJ Candidates Forum, and to Dan of the IV News, thanks for asking the questions. For many years, the status quo in town has been pretty much to keep things the same. The forces of inertia are pretty great. This would be fine if things were okay, but they're not. Many people talk about a time when Cave Junction was great back in the day, but even then there was generational poverty, and the rural isolation preventing jobs, services from accessing this region was too great. I have walked the town, placed flyers at the doors of every residence, and spoken to about 10% of the citizens who happen to be out in their yards or open garages. They'd recognize me by my blue mask and blue gloves and the distant stance I took. Uniformly, these registered voters would tell me that they had little to no confidence in City Hall. When I asked them why, the answers ranged from a general lack of trust, speculation that the city's run by like deep staters, frustration that the place is rude and dismissive, and most of all, a feeling that their interests are unwelcome by the officials. The only way to get this kind of information is by being an outsider who is mercilessly attacked by the insiders. And from what I can tell, the voters trust me more and more as the attacks mount in the press, social media, and in print graphics. Surely one of the questions in this forum will ask why I'm running for mayor. And to quote several folks I met, it's so they finally have someone they can vote for who will be open, honest, transparent, and disciplined to bring the change they want to see. I'll say to the viewers tonight what I'm saying to the voters who live in Cave Junction. Elect the team who will work for you. Christopher Hall, Joel Dierkes, and Jason Gill. Thank you for your vote.
All right. So I'm going to ask you guys the same question. Again, thank you for running. What sacrifices are you willing to make in your personal life in order to serve the people of Cave Junction? And how will you separate your personal life from public service? And we're going to start with Mr. Hall, since Mayor Martell went first.
Okay, so my personal life and my professional life have oftentimes been actually quite connected, whether I was a homesteader or whether I was working as a professional in the performing arts world, where I had a mission to cultivate compassionate social action through arts education and evocative performance. Nowadays, I'm finding ways to cultivate compassionate social action through different means. And I believe that bringing my heart and my soul and the things that I care about to the job as mayor will be part and parcel of what I do professionally in the job. I have worked my entire career where my heart, my soul, and my person were connected to the work I do. My mission in life has never been separate from the jobs I've done. I've been very fortunate in that. And so I don't see that my personal life is going to be so much different from what I am when I am mayor. In fact, the people I've spoken to want the person who I am in the job. That's what they're looking for, is the person, not just some, separate cardboard cutout. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Martell, would you like to tackle that question? Would you need me to repeat it after you unmute yourself? You're muted.
All right, yes.
Okay. You muted yourself again.
There.
There you go.
Okay, the question being, what would I sacrifice? Well, first of all, the really good news is I will be retiring from my paid work, which in the very beginning of a term the next year. And that will free up a lot of my time. The other thing I would probably sacrifice is I won't make such a big garden like I did this year. That takes up a lot of my time. I also have been a homesteader for many years. I put a lot of time and effort in that, but I really, really believe in giving back to my community. And after taking quite a few years off after my husband died to reinvent myself, I really decided it was time for me to get back and give back to my community. And I think I'm the right person to continue that work. I kind of lost a year of my term with COVID, so I still have a lot of energy and excitement about some of the things I want to do, like downtown revitalizations, and I've been really boning up on that and gathering resources. So I'd really like an opportunity to finish the work I've started.
Great. All right, thank you. So we are going to bounce back to Meadow. Doing in that order. Is that working for you, Lindsay? Is that the way you want it done? Okay. So I'm going to start right into the housing. We hear a lot of conversations about housing shortages. Obviously, the ability to build or inability to build has been a contentious conversation in Cave Junction of late. So I'm going to ask you, Meadow, first. What do you feel can be done to address the housing issue, and specifically what part the city plays in that?
Well, I think maybe one of the counselors had mentioned that we've been really fortunate in the last 3 years. There has been a lot of houses built. I think the issue that is forefront is about affordable housing. And I think we maybe need to start looking at how we can attract either builders that want to come in and do like, not just duplexes, but places that are like on Lister Street, that are more low-income housing that people can use. And I think we can look at, what can the city offer? I already know that our building codes and the service that people get at the city are great. We get nothing but praise from people like Howard and Howard, builders who say that the city is easy to work with. So I think we have an opportunity that we can build on that. I'm sure we would get a good review from the builders that have already been here, but we do need to look at how we can attract more investors.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Hall, how do you feel the city could adapt and change to make things more a way to increase our housing?
So we all know that we have a housing crisis. It's a huge problem, not just in the Valley, but of course, region-wide. And the number one thing we can do is incentivize building by providing tax breaks where possible. But I also think what's important is that we go to the city of Salem and we ask for tax increment financing to be permitted to be kept back here in the valley. Tax increment financing is when you build something new, the taxes that are associated with that don't go to Salem so much. Some of it does, but most of it's kept here. So that enables us to be able to pay for the services that would be needed with additional development. There are other incentives I feel to work with that are outside the city in order to bring in more housing. There's no question that we need to address the housing crisis, and that's going to be a huge process.
We're going to stay with Mr. Hall since we were talking about costs. Mr. Hall, will you please explain the budgeting process? Describe the process, the frequency, the breakdown of earmarked versus general fund dollars, meaning, how much money can the city spend freely and how often do they get to decide how they do that? What's the process?
So I have not attended the budget committee meeting, so I don't have any idea of exactly how that process works. But as the treasurer of the Ivy Chamber of Commerce and somebody who spent his entire career working on balancing budgets and working as a leader in that area in different organizations, I can assure you that when I get a chance to finally get a look at that budget and pick it apart and have a detailed look at it, I'm definitely going to find ways to find efficiencies and streamline that budget. I know for a fact that the $6 million or some odd dollars that comes in from a various number of places, mostly through high fees and sewer and water. The taxes that the people pay are pretty much maxed out and it's almost too much, but there are a huge amount of efficiencies that can be found. And I have every intention of coming in and cleaning out that budget, making it more efficient and finding ways to spend the tax dollars better for the people of Cave Junction. And I know that that's caused a lot of concern. And you know what? It's coming.
Fair enough. Mayor Martell, would you like to educate us on our budget, how we get it done and how often we get it done and where the money comes from and what can be spent where?
Great. We go through the budgeting process sometime between April and May, and there are always one to two budget meetings that are advertised in the newspaper so people could participate. We have a budget committee that meets, and prior to that, the budget is prepared based on historical and also planned projects. So the staff is involved, the public works are involved about what they see happening. And our general fund is really mostly spent on like street maintenance, vehicle replacements, insurance reserves, building maintenance, law enforcement, administration. So we look at all those things and bring it together and look at how to balance it with what kind of income we have. I find it interesting that my opponent, who has never been to a budget meeting, has already stated that the city budget is done with Post-it notes. But I can tell you, this is our budget. It's something like 26 detailed pages that looks at staffing, that looks at income, that looks at what are the projects that we're going to do, what kind of street repairs we're going to do, and how, and it just brings it all together and balances it.
Okay, thank you very much. And I am back at you, Mayor Martell. It's been brought up that Cave Junction has the highest water rates in Southern Oregon. What are cities of similar size charging, and what rate increases have been levied upon the residents, and how has that money been spent? If you'd like to unmute yourself. And
there we go. That's a really good question, and my opponent has stated that we have some of the highest rates in Southern Oregon, which is clearly not true. And I'm not sure where he gets his information from, because I went and talked directly to our utility clerk, who actually does all the bills and takes in the money. Our rates for both sewer and water are about, I think it's $85 a month, and that's a base rate. For $35, you get 500 gallons of water, and the rates start going up the more you use. It's ludicrous to think that we have the highest rates in Southern Oregon. In fact, I think it was even mentioned that Ashland's went directly to the Ashland City their rates are $96 for the minimum amount. And they've raised their rates every single year. We had the first rate increase in last rate increase was 2005. And that was the first time. And we were really behind. We have not done many rate increases. So I'm just baffled.
Mayor, you ran out of time. So apologize to have you muted. I do want to clarify, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly, but rates were raised in 2018 and before that was 2005 prior? Okay. All right. Mr. Hall, would you like to tackle that question? Do you need me to repeat it? You're muted.
There we go. Thank you so much for asking this important question. The claim that our water and sewer rates aren't high is just, I don't know how anyone can just say that with a straight face. And I know that that's what politics is all about, but that's one of the most important and largest significant forms of income that this city gets. And they've basically been raising the rates as a way of taxing the people and using it as a secret tax where you're not raising more property taxes. The city backed into a corner recently, had to go buy a golf course for $620,000. And where do you think the extraordinary amount of mortgage interest in addition to the purchase price of that is going to get tacked on? It's going to be more sewer rates. The prices that we pay don't even come close to the service that we're getting. Our our sewage treatment plant has not been updated in so long that it doesn't have the ability to dump fresh water back into the river because the water's too dirty. So we're stuck using the golf course. I've run out of time. Thank you.
Okay, so since we're on the topic of the golf course, Mr. Hall, you've criticized the city for the purchase of the golf course to ensure the continued use as a way to release effluent. Other than time traveling and going back in history to create an easement, what options were on the table and why was this a wise or unwise decision to acquire the golf course?
This is such a fiasco. I can't believe it. Okay. And to try to spin this in such a fashion where, oh, there were 4 terrible choices and they picked the least terrible one is just pure political BS. And it'll never fly. Okay. This golf course, when it was built, and it's not Palm Springs, went into money losing status right after the construction loans. Everybody knew that this was never going to work well. Then when that housing development collapsed in 2007, they didn't have any ability to run that golf course in a way that would be profitable. And as a result, the writing was on the wall from day one that this is a fragile contract and a fragile way to dump the effluent. And yes, Dan, they should have absolutely had an easement that would have tracked with future owners. And the fact is that there was negligence and there was incompetence that led us to the day where there was a 24-hour notice special emergency meeting for the express purpose of being able to try to come up with a plan as to what to do because Chapter 11 bankruptcy hit. And Chapter 11 was the end of the contract.
Thank you. Mayor Martell, would you like to unmute yourself and tackle see if you can hit a par on the course here?
All right. As usual, my opponent has a lot of disinformation and unsubstantiated statements. First of all, the golf course went into Chapter 7 because they could not reorganize their debt. And when that happened, the city realized we have some choices because we did a feasibility study, and the cheapest possibility was to purchase not a golf course, but the land where we can continue to discharge our effluent. And the reason we have to do it is the DEQ prohibits the city from putting it in the river, not because it's not clean, because it is actually as clean as our drinking water, but because of the temperature and the flow of the river. So it makes good sense. It was a wise move and the cheapest a solution for the city to purchase the golf course property to meet DEQ standards of not putting things in the river because of temperature and flow. I'm just baffled by some of the things that accusations.
All right, thank you. I am going to ask that you guys try, and I know it's difficult. You've got all these boxes you're looking at, but please do try to keep track. Mrs. Jones, she takes her time to actually put her phone up there to show you where your time's at. And I know a lot of these topics are complicated and a lot more detail. I'm sitting here, I've got a lot of questions for both of you based on comments you've made, but I understand you've got a minute, and just look for that when that red card comes up, just wrap it up. So I just got notified. Ms. Martell, Mayor Martell, in your campaign publication, I'm starting with Mayor, no, am I going back with Chris? I'm out of sync. Mr. Hall or Mayor
No,
Martell?
It would be Mayor Martell.
Okay, Mayor Martell, if you want to unmute yourself. In your campaign publication, you state that you wish to foster a positive reputation that reflects the citizens of Cave Junction. How do you do this? What plans have you enacted or plan to?
Thank you. And I apologize for the timing because I didn't have Lindsay's picture up there. Mine was up there. That's why I didn't see it. I think one of the things we can really do for a better reputation is the downtown revitalization. You know, there are a lot of people that go through Cave Junction, and a lot of them say they don't stop because they're afraid to. Well, I think that's partly because we don't look as welcoming as we could be. And I think once we start welcoming people in by looking good and inviting, that will help the reputation. I also think working with closely with the county commissioners and the rest of the county and being more visible and about who we are and what we're doing. I think our cities and our parks are another big draw for people to come in. So I think Cave Junction has a lot more to offer now. And I think it's time that we can turn this around by being more visible. So, done.
All right. It's going a lot quicker than I anticipated. Mr. Hall and Mayor Martell, do you each have a pen and a piece of paper in front of you?
Oh, Chris needs to answer that last question.
Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Thanks, Lindsay. So most people drive through Cave Junction and they view it like an obstacle course on their way to beat down to California through 199. And there are very few things to incentivize them to stop and pay a visit. It's unfortunate because there's so many other towns in Oregon that are destinations unto themselves. And Cave Junction is set in probably one of the most beautiful places of Oregon. And we have a unique cultural heritage that ought to be celebrated, and it ought to be promoted as a destination. I know this is one of the most important things we can do to attract dollars into this town that will stay, such as tourist dollars. So there can be no question that the long-awaited downtown beautification, which is really not something you just snap your fingers and do, but you work on over the course of years, ought to be completed. And we must incentivize commercial and residential development that will be exciting for the people to come and have hotels and other types of amenities for them. Thank you.
All right. So, like I said, I asked if both Mayor Martell and Mr. Hall have a pen and a piece of paper. I would like for you guys to write down the name of the current mayor of Grants Pass. All right, what do we have? And if you guys could show that to me. Meadow, you're muted. So it's Chris, you're muted.
I know its name. I can't pull it out of my brain. Is it
Mr.
Lindsay?
Hall?
I did not hear the question because as you were speaking, it dropped out. Can you repeat the question, please?
Question is, who is the mayor of the city of Grants Pass?
Oh, I have no idea.
All right. My second question that I want you guys to write down answers to is, how much money does the city bring in property tax in a given year? Anyone?
Nope.
Mr. Hall?
No, Dan, and if you want to play these little, multiple choice type of questions, that's fine, but I don't see how this is helping the viewers learn more about us. Let's just get to the substance here, okay?
Well, what the substance here is to see that when you apply for a job, unfortunately, this is a volunteer position, but when you apply for a job, generally you'll go in, ask the people who have the knowledge, try and gain knowledge so that you can actually form ideas and things that are based on fact and not on thoughts and prayers or mythical rainbows and unicorns. That's just kind of what this is about. And if we're going to be partners with Grants Pass, if we're going to look at Grants Pass as the ideal shining city on the hill that we should emulate, we should at least know who their leadership is. If we're going to talk about income and revenue to the city, we should know where that revenue actually comes from. So here's my next question. Can you guys tell me how much revenue the city has brought in this year off bulk water sales?
My answer is that if I'm elected mayor, I will end bulk water sales because that is a travesty to be using our precious resource that's been treated like that to sell to a bunch of pot farmers. It's just not going to happen.
Miss Mayor Martell, do you know how much money that brings in?
Yes, it brings in $215,000 that would have to be replaced. And it's not just pot farmers. It's people in Selma whose wells run dry in the summertime. It's people that don't have enough water. It's not just pot farmers. So you would be hurting them too. And you'd have to replace $215,000.
So at this stage of the game, I'm going to we'll start with Mr. Hall. I'd like for Mr. Hall to ask Mayor Martell a question of his choosing. And then I will ask Mayor Martell to ask Mr. Hall a question of her choosing.
Well, ever since 6 months into your term, you made it public knowledge that you would never run for re-election and that you didn't really want the job. You said that you never really wanted to do more than just be the volunteer mayor. And you were surprised by how much work it was. But then all of a sudden, towards the end of this summer, your opinion changed. And so I'm just curious. I've always wondered what the deal was. I had sat down and had a chat with Dan Bosch, who was the he's position 1, and he said, "Oh yeah, Meadow, she's not running." And this was like sometime in July or whatever. And then like 45 minutes later, he texts me back and says, "Oh my God, she's running." And he was equally surprised. And so I'm very curious as to what your thoughts on and the change was on that.
Okay. Well, I love the way you put words into my mouth, Chris. I don't know where you get them. I've always said I wasn't sure I wanted to make a thoughtful decision. But when I've seen how much disinformation and unsubstantiated claims you make, it's clear to me that you do not have an understanding of how our government works. And I feel like it would have been unconscionable for me to make a major change in our city right now. We don't need to blow things up. We need to be building things. COVID has had a big impact on us. And I feel like I can bring that stability.
Okay. All right, Mayor, if you want to take a minute or you want to ask Mr. Hall a question.
Well, yes. Well, Mr. Hall, since you want to eliminate $215,000 out of our budget, how would you go about replacing that?
Thanks for having me. This budget is so significantly larger than $215,000 that there is no question that when I get a chance to dig around in this budget, we are going to find efficiencies And we're going to find ways to be able to better serve the citizens of Cave Junction than they have been. And, you know, if it's $200,000, that's between us and taking all this pressure treated water and selling it off, then that's a really good moral question to ask. I do think, however, you bring up a really good point, and I totally agree with you on this, that if there are families in Selma and elsewhere where they need the water, that's what the water is for. That's what the precious treated water is for. So in that regard, I'd be less inclined to, like, you know, price gouge them or anything, and probably actually make sure that they got the water that they needed without, you know, trying to profit off them, quite frankly, because it would seem really unfortunate. Thanks.
All right. I am just going to toss this little nugget out there. I don't know if either of you will be surprised, but the city of Cave Junction receives less than $250,000 a year in property tax. So anyway, it's unfortunate. And the mayor of Grants Pass as of today is Roy Lindsay. He's up for re-election on November 3rd. I think he'd like to be mayor again next year. I would strongly urge you guys form a relationship with him or his successor, if whoever of you choose to win. Now, only one person's going to win. So my question is, if you do not win, and I think we're going with Mayor Martell on this, because I think Chris went first on the last one. If you do not win, what do you do? What do you plan to do to serve the people of Cave Junction after the election, after your term in office ends?
Well, that's an easy question for me because it will be whether I win or not. I'm going to be either way. I'm really committed to doing downtown revitalization. And I think our downtown is our social and economic civic heart of our community. And I would be first and foremost part of developing an Oregon Main Street program, that because Oregon Main Street provides a lot of help with communities like that. There are over 99 communities who are part of the Oregon Main Street, and that's how I think I can help, is with downtown revitalization, whether I'm mayor or not, because it's that important to who we are. We need to help our businesses. Help our businesses, we help our community.
Okay, Mr. Hall.
Well, if I'm not elected mayor, the first thing I will do is congratulate Meadow, and I will do what I can to support her. That is the number one thing. The next thing I will do is continue working with the Ivy Chamber of Commerce as its treasurer on the Board of Trustees. And I will continue helping small farmers and families through the Cave Junction Farmers Market, which is a significant community and economic builder for the region. I will continue raising money through grants. I've raised a little over $500,000 in the, I guess, since 2014 for different organizations. And I will do everything I can to support those organizations as I have. And mind you, this is all volunteer work. My interest in Cave Junction is to see that it is able to reach a potential that has historically not been met. And if I can't do it by virtue of being the mayor, then I will certainly find other ways. There can be no question. Thank you.
Okay. We are going to go with Mr. Hall on this one. In a July, I think it was 13th or 17th town hall from with Senate candidate Jerry Allen. During the course of that, a person who was attempting to build some houses here in Cave Junction felt that the city needed to expand its urban growth boundary up to the end of Kirby, and I believe the gentleman said down to the Illinois Valley Airport. What is your position on that? And do you know what requirements there are to expand an urban growth boundary?
Well, I met with Mark Stevenson, who's the head of planning in Josephine County, and I've also met with Darren Fowler, and I've had the discussions with them what it would be like to fill the holes that make the city look like a piece of
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't talking about closing the islands. I was specifically talking about expanding the urban growth boundary.
Well, okay, so we would be expanding the urban growth boundary first by filling the holes, And second, taking that puzzle piece that looks like the worst gerrymandered piece of land ever and turning it more into an oval. There can be no question. If we were to try to create a corridor all the way down to the airport, I just don't see how that would happen. And the suggestion that we could just do that without a huge amount of planning is just unrealistic. The other thing is expanding to the north of Kirby. Well, we can wish to grow the city to the size of Kirby. I know that there already is sewer and water that's there, but again, that's another huge like growth speculation that would take an enormous amount of time to think through and to consider. And it would be like reaching out to the people of Kirby and the city of Cave Junction folks. I mean, it's just too much work at this time.
Okay. Mayor Martell, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
All right.
What is the feasibility and what is actually required to expand an urban growth boundary?
Well, that's a good question and not one I've actually explored, but I imagine, you know, when we expand an urban growth boundary, that means we are incorporating county property. So we would definitely be working with the county commissioners. And anytime you change your boundary lines, like the islands, you still have to talk to include the property owners of those properties. So it would be a very public process. I'm sure that the state is probably involved in terms of expanding urban growth boundaries. It would be something that would have to be handled really carefully, and it might even need to go to a vote of the people who it would be impacting.
Okay. Let's go back to the golf course. The city purchased the golf course. What are the plans? Well, does the city have a plan? And we're going to start with the mayor. Does the city have a plan? Has the city identified any options? And is there one thing that you personally as mayor would like to see happen with the Illinois Valley Golf Course?
Okay, thank you. I think the golf course, it would be a really good asset in our community. The city does not have the capacity or the staffing to manage a golf course, but we certainly would be interested in entertaining any complete and reliable plan for operating the golf course. We do not want to see the same thing that happened the last time when they went into bankruptcy. So we would entertain something like that. We will be keeping it mowed for safety, but really what there's a possibility of selling pieces off, but what we're really interested in is we use that for discharging our effluent, which actually works very well for a golf course because it keeps them really green. But we'd be looking for an outside organization to come in and manage it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hall, would you like to unmute yourself and tackle this one?
So, you know, usually privatizing a city service can be, you know, something that people can get upset with. You know, like I've talked about looking into privatizing the sewage and the water treatment plants, and it's just caused people to go crazy. What's even more mad is actually a public agency buying up a private sector business. And yeah, I mean, we have no business buying a private sector business we don't know how to run. We don't have the resources to run. And on top of it, we bought one that's bankrupt. And, you know, it's so telling that we offered $620,000 to buy a piece of property that had an $80,000 tax lien on it. And not a single member of the private sector wanted to bid against that because it was so heavily overpriced. I mean, there's no competition. It's like, oh my gosh, we just saddled the residents with the payments of water and sewer fees for buying this thing for gosh knows how many years. Thanks.
Just to clarify something, the assessed value was $990,000, and I believe the retail value of that property is well over $1 million. And it's very common for nonprofits to defer tax payments on that. And now that the city has it, they won't have to pay taxes at all. So I just wanted to get that information out there.
Are
to
you
people.
debating us?
Hmm?
Dan?
No, I'm just stating facts.
Are you running for mayor?
I'm stating facts.
You're supposed to be asking the questions, just like the person from the Josephine County.
I'm just stating some facts. That there were some things that were said that were inaccurate, and I just wanted everyone to know what the facts were.
What was inaccurate?
So we can continue to debate this, Mr. Hall. We can move on to homeless and crime. Would you like to tackle that one, or you want to continue having this conversation? It's your call.
I'm good all night long.
All right, it's your minute. Have at it.
Okay, do you want to do homeless, or do you want to do more golf course?
The option was yours. I actually formulated a question, and
Well,
you choose
I
to
would
do it.
like to make sure we get onto the homeless.
So Mayor Martell,
Well, I'll
would you
talk
like
about.
to tackle the homeless and crime issue in Josephine County?
Yeah.
Actually, in Cave Junction, I think I'd rather break this up into two separate questions. So what are your issues with the homeless, and what do you feel that the city can do to aid in their plight?
Great. Homeless issue is one I've thought a lot about. I've talked to a lot of other cities. It's a question that nobody has a really good answer to. I think one of the things that the city can do is help support like the Ivy Homeless Coalition, because there is money out there for a nonprofit to provide services. I think we need to make sure we get our mental health organizations involved, because a lot of homelessness has to do with mental illness. We've got On Track and we've got options here. We can get them more involved. I think we can be helpful by helping people, nonprofits like the Ivy Homeless Coalition, look for grants to maybe do a navigation center, because that's part of the issue is the homeless need to know what their options are. And I will continue talking with other cities about what they find are solutions, because this is a very tough issue to deal with.
Okay. Mr. Hall, do you care to tackle the homeless question?
Thank you for unmuting. Absolutely, the homeless question is tragic and it's awful. And a big shout out to Jimmy Evans and to the folks who've made CJ Homeless Alliance come together, because what we have is a very unfortunate situation. We live in basically what's a cul-de-sac, and the whole region is basically sending us their homeless. And because we don't have the resources to handle them any better than they do, if not worse, we end up getting stuck with the raw end of the stick. Homelessness must be dealt with on a region-wide, Rogue Valley-wide system where both counties, Josephine and Jackson, all the cities, Cave Junction, Grants Pass, Rogue River, Gold Hill, Ashland, and all the other cities get together. We work with NGOs, which are the non-governmental organizations, and we put together a system of partnership that's public and private that tries to work together to solve the problem, because no one city or agency can do it alone. It's just too big.
Okay. So I have gotten notice that I am pushing the end of our time, and we started with Mayor Martell. So we're going to wrap up the evening with Mr. Hall. You're going to have 2 minutes to make a final statement.
Well, I want to thank you, Dan, and Lindsay, and Kenny, and Forrest, and I want to also thank all the other folks who came out tonight to watch this. I'll begin my final statement with what is the beginning of a new era in Cave Junction. The city charter states that the mayor is the executive and administrative head of city government, and the foremost priority in this leadership is to ensure the city staff have the resources and support to do their best work on behalf of the citizenry. When anyone enters City Hall for daily business to attend public meetings, expect to be warmly greeted and served efficiently with kindness. When you have the desire to address the elected officials in public meetings, I will personally thank you for your input. Gone will be the thinly veiled disdain and the orders to limit people who may comment. Regular public meetings will be held the second and fourth Mondays of every month. Meeting agenda will be publicly made available online like a Google Drive for the entire year. All standing agenda items and annual items will be known at all times. And as we approach the meetings in the months and weeks ahead, agendas will become fleshed out for all to see in advance. Gone will be the day when agendas are posted last minute, and it will be only under the most extraordinary circumstances that agenda items will be added during the course of any one meeting. I intend to preside over the most open, transparent city hall this town has ever had. This scares the existing folks who currently hold the reins, but I think that they will come to see honesty, truthfulness, fairness, and sincerity are nothing to fear. And when they do, maybe their attacks against me will subside. I want to say, elect the team who will work for you: Christopher Hall, Joel Dierkes, and Jason Gill. Thank you all.
Great. All right, Mayor Martell, if you'd like to take your 2 minutes, please.
Well, you bet. Again, thank you very much. And I really appreciate everybody that's put this together. I just want to say, and I want to be really straight with the people that out there, is the amount of disinformation and unsubstantiated statements that my opponent makes clearly demonstrates he does not understand how our city government works and its functions. I have worked really hard with the staff. I think they're working well together. I meet with them regularly. The whole staff gets together at least once a month to be informed of things. And it's running smoothly, contrary to some of the things that have been said. I appreciate people. Unfortunately, COVID prevented me. Before COVID, I had regular office hours that it was open, that people could come in and speak with me. I will continue that because I really appreciate the input and our community and their input. I want to work real closely with the businesses so that we can do see our downtown thrive. I think that we have an opportunity to develop and become really important in our community. And I just can't thank you enough. I promise you, I will not lie to you. I will not mislead you for personal gain or special interest. And that is why I am asking for your vote to re-elect me mayor. I think that I will serve you well, and you will see our community grow. I think that we are doing well. We shall continue to do well. It's not time to make the kind of drastic changes that Mr. Hall has outlined. So I really thank you all and appreciate everything that you do. I love our community.
Great. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who showed up tonight. Specifically the 4 candidates that are here, as well as the other people. I actually counted 50 participants, including us. So I think there was 8 staff and candidates. So Chris and Jesse, I'm not sure which one of you got that one, but I know there was a slight wager going on there, Jesse. Okay. So again, I can't thank everyone enough. I appreciate all the work that Lindsay has put into this one, as well as the Tuesday night, and the selection season is almost over. So get out and vote.
Thanks so much, Dan. I really appreciate you for moderating tonight, and for Illinois Valley News for getting the word out. I just love to remind everybody before we go about the rebroadcast. So this will be on a YouTube link on our community website, which is www.illinoisvalleyweb.org. And radio rebroadcasts will be on KXCJ-LP 105.7 FM Cave Junction on Tuesday, October 27th at 6:15 p.m. and Saturday, October 31st at 11:15 a.m. All right, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much, and good night.